I was already running my business janky. And then like right after that is when the whole IRS thing happened, and I was out of literally thousands of dollars, and I pretty much went broke. Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another video, and today's video is pretty exciting. Okay, I don't know, maybe it's not that exciting, but this is definitely a long awaited video that I've been talking about making for a while now. So I'm excited to make this video. And plus, it's been forever since I've been on YouTube. Like, I haven't been on YouTube. I think my last video was posted about a month ago, which is a while for me because I be telling y'all I really want to be consistent with YouTube. So I'm trying to get to the point where I can post videos. Well, I can post videos actually weekly, but I'm trying to get to the point where I'm posting videos at least 3 to 4 times a month. So that's kind of what my goal is right now. And so recap real quick before we even get into the video. The past couple of weeks, I've been kind of moving around a lot, doing a little bit of traveling. Well, a lot of traveling. Missed Corona. And so that's the reason I really wasn't able to get videos and stuff done like that. And today is what? It's January 16th. So I just got back home actually this week from traveling. I was pretty much gone from before Christmas all the way up until last week. And I had went to like a couple of different cities. I went back home to Chicago. I went to Miami, Atlanta, and I also took another flight. So I was just a little bit of everywhere. And now I'm finally back in my house and able to sit down. And I've been writing notes. If you guys follow me, you've been seeing on Twitter, I was asking you guys what type of video you wanted over this and over that one. And so I just have a long list of videos that I pretty much have to put out. So I'm happy to be back. And yeah, we're going to jump into the video. So today's video is going to be a detailed breakdown of my ebook, 10 Ways Not to Run a Business. If you've been following me for a while, you know about this ebook. This ebook was pretty much 10 things I did wrong when I ran my business the first time. And I'm saying the first time because a lot of you guys that are new here, you know me as the owner of LASH Candy, and LASH Candy used to be official SBY. It was same lashes, it was still a lash brand, but the original name was official SBY. The logo was different, the branding was different, everything was pretty much different. That's how I started off the business. And those first 2 years in business, I made a lot of mistakes, like a lot, like more mistakes than I can count. And when I created LASH Candy, I pretty much fixed all of those mistakes. And so about maybe back in like April or May, I can't really remember when, but I think it was about April. We'll say April. I wrote the ebook 10 Ways Not to Run a Business, and that was a free ebook that I gave out and put out, and it's still free to this day. You can go and get it at KenyaAgeMarketing.com. But that was a free ebook that I put out that literally listed out 10 things I did wrong and kind of how I did them wrong. And I created that ebook because a lot of people are used to hearing about how you run a business. Like, there's a ton of ebooks on how to run a business and what to do and how to set up and da-da-da-da. But there's not a lot of steps and books that tell you exactly what not to do in detail. And that's why I created this ebook. And at the time when I created it was in the beginning of COVID. And that was a time where a lot of business owners were like kind of like antsy and like worried, and people were losing their jobs and like all of this different stuff. So I made the ebook free because I really wanted everybody to be able to read it that ever thought about starting a business. And I really wanted my entrepreneur friends and my creative friends to learn from my mistakes when I started my business. And at the time when I wrote this ebook was right before I started rebranding. So I basically had cleaned up all of my messes, I guess, at the time when I wrote the ebook. So enough of that. We'll jump right into the video. I'm pretty much just going to go through each thing with an explanation and kind of like how it affected me. And I'm not going to make this video really long because y'all, I don't think you guys want to hear an hour long about how I fucked up everything. So I'm gonna give pretty brief explanations. So starting off, I have the ebook right here on my phone, so I'm literally just gonna go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My first thing that I put down was brand strategy, and this one was pretty much not developing a brand strategy and how that kind of affected me in the long run. So in the first sentence, I literally said not developing a brand strategy or direction is one of the things that came back to bite me. This became an issue as the company grew more and more. So I brought that up because literally when I created Official SBY, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, when I say I didn't know what I was doing, I did not know what I was doing. I was a marketing student. Like, yeah, that's what my degree is in, but like, I didn't know what I was getting into. I had no idea I would be here today, now, still running this company. Like, I was just doing something because it felt right. So with that being said, I didn't think about branding at all whatsoever. I just knew I needed a logo, I knew I needed a name, and I knew I needed to post on Instagram. That's about it. So with that being said, I just had no real branding direction. And I was just putting out content constantly all the time. And it was just like, people were buying it because my marketing was good. Like, in my opinion, that's what I think it was. I think my marketing was good, but there was no real brand. There was no emotional attachment to my company. And the reason I bring up emotional attachment is because when you look at these big brands, you look at Apple, you look at Coke, you look at Sprite, you look at Disney, those brands all have morals, they have ethics, they have values and things that they follow that guide them to create the content and product that they do. And you can see that within their brand. I had none of that. I was just pushing out something to sell. And so as I started to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, one thing I got really good at, I was great at Facebook ads. Like, I could create a Facebook ad, spending $10 a day, and by the end of the day, I'll probably make $1,000. Like, I was really good at marketing and selling, but I wasn't so good at branding. So when the Facebook ads went off, it was just like, you know, like my customer retention wasn't that high, all of that stuff. And it was all due to me not really having a real brand. And so today I always tell my clients, like, focus on building a brand. Don't focus on just selling a product, because that brand will stand the test of time. Lash Candy is now, I'm working on really making it a brand, and that's what I've been doing the past couple of months since I rebranded myself. I'm focused on like getting to know customers, doing real collaborations with influencers, being a company that people look at and you see certain things. You see women of every color, not just women, you see people of every color on our page, people from everywhere. And I'm actually starting to connect with customers now and have real conversations and not just be a business. And you can kind of get to know my personality more and more through the brand. And I'm also working on a pop-up shop where I'm finally going to get a chance to meet my customers because they don't know who the person is behind this company. So all of those different things kind of account to actually having a real brand. Pretty much just communicating and connecting with your customers and your audience and your community. So that's one thing I pretty much did wrong with Official SBY. There was no branding whatsoever to me. Getting into number 2, developing policy. Developing policy. So this was something that really came back to bite me a lot. Like I said, number 1, when I created Official SBY, I had no idea where it was going to go, and I had no idea what I was doing. Meaning, as Official SBY started to grow bigger and bigger, I started to encounter more customer problems and more quality control problems and stuff like that. And I had no real policy in place of structure to follow when things went wrong. And so, for example, when I started really like getting consistent sales back to back, we were starting to get orders that would just come up lost. Like, if you're a business owner, you probably know, but things come up lost. And that was happening. Like, I'm not going to say it was happening a lot, but it was happening. So packages were coming up lost. People weren't receiving their items. And then there were times where people were getting their, well, I'm not going to say they were getting their product, but the tracking status on a package would say delivered. And the customer would say that they didn't receive it. And so I had no policy in place to tackle any of these issues that were happening. So it was kind of just like I was winging it off of what I think I should do. And that is not the correct way you should go into things. You should have a policy in place, and you should always think about the what ifs. When you're starting a brand, you're starting a business, you should always think about the what ifs, what could happen. So now I have a developed policy that states exactly what happens if your package is lost in transit. I will send you a second package totally for free, but no refund will be given. Like things like that. Your business needs to have a structure, or else it would easily collapse. So it was just a lot of times like I was dealing with angry customers, and I just didn't know what to do because I had no real policy and I had no real structure. And that, my people, is something that you need to have. And you pretty much, I would just say along with that, you have to not be afraid to grow with your business. Like when you start your business, don't just look at it like it's a small business. Have in mind when you're starting your business that your company will grow to be a Fortune 500 company. Like create it and move like it's a big business, even if it's not yet. And that helps a lot. And that was something that I didn't do. So getting on to number 3, team building. Building a team. Building a team. So something I did not do. The entire time I was running Official SBY, I did not have a team. I was the marketing girl. I was the customer service girl. I was the quality control girl. I was the product sourcer. I was the packager, the shipper. Everything is, I did it on my own. And that's okay. Don't get me wrong. Starting off, especially when you're broke like I was when I started my business, you won't have a team because you don't have no money to pay nobody. Unless you have an investment and you get upfront capital, then you have the luxury of being able to build a team. But otherwise, you're starting off with just you. Now, where I went wrong was that I started making sales. My business started growing. I started making money, and it was still just me. And that, my friend, is stupid. Don't be selfish when it comes to your business. When you start making money, if you're making anything, first of all, if you're making anything under $1 million a year, they consider you a small business. Like, that's what you're considered. So at the time when my business was really growing, I think I was making around $100,000 plus. Like, I was still making a decent amount of money, but to the world, I still had a small business. But I was making enough money to where I could afford to pay somebody to do my graphic designing, to do my customer service, to where I could have an assistant. And I wasn't doing that stuff. I just thought I could do everything on my own. And that is what kind of, it put a halt on my growth. Like, I could have been growing a lot faster if I had the time to focus on the things that I was good at in my business. And I wasn't focusing on answering customer service and doing accounting, which I barely knew how to do. And all of this stuff that I just did not know how to do for real. If I had a team, my business would have grew at a much faster rate. And yeah, that money would have been going away from out of my hand, but it would have been going to a good place because that investment in paying somebody to do all of these things would have helped my business grow even more and become even more profitable. So that was a big thing that I kind of messed up on. And it's just like I started to drain myself from that. Like the reason I bring up draining myself is just because like over time, it was like I didn't like running my business anymore. Like it just became stressful. Everything about it just became stressful, and I feel like I hated it there. I hated it there. That's exactly what it is. Like I don't even know how else to put it. And so I had just ran through all my energy, and it was to the point I couldn't even make decisions as well as I should have been able to, because I had just ran myself to the ground. Like, and remember guys, I was in college at this time. So I started my business in 2017. I didn't graduate to college until 2019, and I was a full-time student. So I was also thinking about how I'm going to pass all my classes at the time when I was building this brand. And it was just a lot. It was too much on my plate to be doing it all by myself. So basically the takeaway from that is as your business starts to grow, start to build your team. As soon as you start making enough money to where you can afford to pay people, start allocating tasks. And the things you want to allocate first are the things that you don't like doing. For me, it was packaging orders. It was, which is crazy because I'm still doing that, y'all. But I got a little bit of help. But it was customer service emails, packaging orders, and graphic design. Graphic design was when I rebranded, that was the first thing that I allocated to someone else. And now I have a graphic design. Well, I have 2 graphic designers that I use faithfully that do all of our graphics. And that was the smartest investment I could have ever made, because that enabled me to be able to market the way I should be able to market, because I personally suck as a designer. And that was something that I just had to accept this year, is that I'm not good at that. So that was the first thing that I allocated. So my advice to you guys is to allocate first the things that you don't like doing, and then just go from there. And keep doing the things that you're good at in your business, and keep doing the things that you like to do in your business. Number 4, this is where it's starting to get juicy, y'all. Business isn't personal. The first couple of sentences of this step say, this is one of the worst mistakes you can make while operating a business. At some point, you will be in situations where you had to choose between catering to your personal relationships and improving your business. When being an entrepreneur, please understand you are entering a new life. Your business is like a baby. You have to nurture it, pay attention to it, and cater to it every single day. And that, my friends, that is true. That is true. So I put businesses in personal because I had a really bad issue with learning how to balance out my personal life and learning how to balance that out with my business. It was like I was starting to realize more and more as I got more busy and my business started to grow, I can't be like a lot of my peers around me. And when I bring that up to say, like, a lot of my friends were able to party all the time, to chill all the time. And when I did certain things like sit on Instagram all day and I needed to talk about business stuff and stuff like that, I was kind of like distant, or they would kind of look at me. I'm not going to say they would look at me weird, but I just felt like a lot of times I started feeling like I didn't fit in everywhere. And then I also started feeling like I couldn't do a lot of things that my friends could do, as far as going out all the time or like sitting and watching TV all the time. I couldn't really do that stuff because it was just like I had this business to run. And I also wasn't trying to fail in school, you know? So I spent a lot of time kind of in my room just doing all types of different stuff. And I missed out on some things. Like I missed out on a decent amount of things with my friends. And my lifestyle just pretty much started to change over time. And it was more and more stuff that I just was not interested in anymore. And my closest friends, I thank God, were able to, the sun is starting to set, y'all, so bear with me. My closest friends, I thank God, they were able to understand that pretty well. But a lot of times in my relationships, like, it was a burden a lot. And it was just, I don't know, it was weird. I felt strange sometimes. And sometimes I felt like people close to me didn't always understand me or what I had going on. And so it kind of put a dent in some of my relationships. So one thing that I would say is just learn how to balance out your relationships and your business in a healthy way. And everybody is not going to understand how you're operating and how you're moving if it's different. And that's perfectly okay. You know, like, that's perfectly okay, because if they don't understand, they're just not meant to be around. That's the way I had to start to look at it. And don't keep around things that aren't healthy for you, or don't keep around people that don't understand your way of living, and don't keep around people that are negative or that are constantly judging you, that don't think like you, and stuff like that, because that can also be a really big downfall to you. I remember I had a friend, like back in 2017 when I wasn't really making no money like that. I had a friend that I was real cool with, and at the end of that year, I had put on my Snapchat like I was gonna make $30,000 plus. And if you follow me, you probably heard me talk about this story before, but I had put I was gonna make $30,000 plus that year in business and da da da. And they were like, what? How are you going to do that? Like, you're crazy. Like, that makes no sense. And I kind of felt, I'm not going to say I felt bad, but I felt weird because it was like, nobody really understands me and how I think, and that I really do think outside the box. And it wasn't that nobody really understands me. I just wasn't around people who really understood me. And so that was like just an example of how like a lot of people in my personal life didn't really go with this new lifestyle that I was trying to live and get into. And that was a little bit of a burden on me, and that affected me in ways that it shouldn't have. So that's why I listed it as something that you shouldn't let happen to you, in so many words. So next, we're on number 5. This is emotions. Emotions, emotions, emotions. This is pretty closely related to number 4, but it's a little more in depth basically. And I put emotions because one thing I struggled with again was dealing with my business and dealing with my emotions. I had a lot going on at the time when I was kind of like in the height of my business. I had a relationship. I had lots of friendships, and I was just going through a lot. And then I also ended up experiencing a really, really bad breakup during the time when my business started doing really well. And that was in February of 2019. So it was also the year I graduated as well. Well, actually, the first part of my breakup was really in like September of 2018. And then it was all the way up until February of 2019. I was in and out of a really toxic relationship. So that had like such a drain on my business to the point where it was days that I really could genuinely not get out of the bed. Like, and it wasn't just the relationship. It was other things going on with me too. Like, I was just really in a stage where I was learning myself. And I was just dealing with a lot mentally. And like I said, it was times where I just really couldn't even get out of the bed. Like, I couldn't post on Instagram. I couldn't ship orders. I was becoming backed up on orders. I was backed up on customer service. I didn't want to do nothing. Like, I was just depressed, honestly. And honestly, that's what it was. I was just depressed for like 3 to 6 months. And I didn't really know how to cope with it. And it wasn't until like maybe March, April, well, late February, March, April, I started seeking help, and I was going to therapy at my university. But I'm bringing up that depression stage I was going through to say, like, if that stage didn't happen, I would have been doing so many more things. I would have been not missing out on so many opportunities that I missed out on. Like, I could have been in LA and meeting people. If I would have had the energy, I would have been running and posting my business the correct way, working with more influencers. I would have been doing everything in my business that I really should have been doing. And mind you guys, 2019 was the year where things really started to go downhill for me. And it all started with that stage of my life when I was depressed and I couldn't handle things anymore. And mind you, I didn't have a team, so it was just me. So it was like, I don't show up to work. Nobody shows up to work. So everything collapsed. Like, everything started collapsing around that time period. And it was all because I just mentally did not have the energy. Like, when I did have to get up and pack orders and do stuff, I forced myself. Like, and it was hard. It was really, really hard. And I also felt like I was in a place where people kind of thought I had this perfect life and people had this perception of me. So I was really vulnerable because it was like I didn't feel comfortable talking about my problems all the time because I felt like people thought I was perfect and people treated me like I was perfect, you know, and I just wasn't myself. So it really sucked. And my advice, like with this one, is if you're an entrepreneur or you're a creative, put your mental health first all the time. Like, you go through things, you're human, and that's okay. But you can't let that take over you for so long, especially when you're in a place where you're growing your business. Like, your mental health is vital. You have to be on point. I'm not going to say you got to be on point all the time, but you have to be very selective with who you deal with, and you have to be very selective with with what you let into your brain and what you let into your space, because your energy is literally vital to you getting up, making shit happen every day. So I guess my advice is just anything that is toxic while you are trying to grow something, let that shit go, get it away from you, clean your spirit, keep your energy fresh, and just try to stay as motivated and as happy as you can, because you will really need that energy when you're trying to grow something beautiful from the ground up. So basically just not letting your emotions take over you all the time, because it will bite you in the ass. A lot of things you have going on will collapse, and it will just slowly start to control you. And now you're at a place where you've let the one thing that really made you happy, that you put so much energy into, fall apart because you're not mentally able to keep up what you have going on. We're at number 6, budgeting. Budgeting is a good one, because this is something that you think it's something you think that all business owners kind of know. And it's something that's talked about a lot now. But that was something I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about how to budget my money. And I knew nothing about kind of like how to allocate my funds correctly. Don't get me wrong. I had like a savings and stuff in college when I started my business. All the regular stuff that you should have. But I didn't realize like how to break down cost of goods and stuff until I actually started taking accounting classes. But I didn't realize how much it related to my business. But you need to know how much money you're spending on everything, and you need to have budgets in place of what to spend based on how much you're making a month, or based on how much money you have to go into your business. And you need to prioritize. And when I say prioritize, I mean like think about what needs your funds the most, and cut off or minimize anything that needs money the least. So I would probably say, like, you got to think about inventory, think about marketing, think about product development, think about if you don't have a job and you live from your business, now you got to think about your personal life, and that's a whole nother thing. So it's like you really have to be smart. You have to write things down. You have to break down costs, break down how much you're making to how much you're spending. A lot of times what people don't realize, we don't account for everything in our cost of goods. And when I say everything, I mean everything. So take example me, I sell lashes. So back then, it was just like I ordered my inventory. That's all I thought about for real. Like, that was the cost, my inventory. However much it cost me to get a pair of lashes, and then however much I sold it for is boom. That's in between is my profit. That's what I'm making. And really that was not the case. I was not accounting for the shipping. Like, I have to pay for shipping to get my lashes sent to me. I had to pay for little stickers in the packaging. I had to pay for label paper that I buy every month. It was a lot more cost that went into that one product that I never really accounted for. And that had me spending a lot more money than what I should have been spending, because I lowered the prices of my lashes so much in the beginning, not realizing how much it was really costing me to get this product. And then one thing that you start to realize, once you start to analyze that, is how much you could cut costs down. So for example, me, like, I started realizing I used to order my lashes in cases. I thought I had one by me, but I don't. I used to order my lashes in cases, right? So then one day I thought to ask my vendor, like, would it be cheaper if I start getting my lashes without the case? Because I had my own box packaging, so I was throwing the cases away and like recycling them and stuff. And he was like, yeah, it'll cut your cost down by this much. And I was like, wow, so I'm basically saving a whole $1 because I'm not gonna have a case anymore. That $1 sounds like a little, but it's actually a lot when you think about pricing and all of that stuff, you know? So that $1 on every lash, when you ordering 300, 400, 500 quantities of lashes, makes a big ass difference, you know? So that was one thing that I had to notice. And then I started realizing with this year recently, I just switched my packaging vendor, because when I sourced my packaging vendor, I was so thirsty that I was kind of going with whoever, you know? Like, I was going with whoever could create the look that I really wanted. You know, I just figured I would get the best price from them, you know? I didn't really shop around. And what you're supposed to do when you're looking for a vendor, shop around. Like when it comes to packaging especially, shop around and ask everybody how much this and that will cost. And then you go with the person who gives you the least cost. And what I found out after shopping around recently, this happened in the past month, I found a vendor who can create my same boxes the same way for like $1.50 cheaper almost. So now I just saved $2.50 on my cost of product. It don't sound like a lot again, but when you order in 500 quantities of lashes like me, or 1,000 plus, that's a lot, because 250 times 500, you know, that's $1,000 plus that you could save. So, going back to the original step, budgeting, like I said, well, I'm sorry, what was that? Number 6? Yeah, going back to number 6, budgeting is just be smart about how you're spending your money, and put your money where it needs to go. Is pretty much my point with that. And of course, as you grow, you'll alter your budget, but make an outline. Like, make an outline and separate things based on need and costs. Separate everything out and just make a plan and try to stick to it as much as you can. And when you get outside the plan, sometimes that's okay. But having that outline is something to follow, and not just spending money here or spending money there sporadically, will save you in the long run. And then it also helps you know, now you can see how much money you're really making, because it's one thing to make money and it's another thing to maintain money. So I was making 6 figures, yeah, but that money was passing by, because I was making money and I'll buy my cards, I'll buy my boxes. But it was no set plan and strategy for how to go about it and how I could still keep profit. So make a budget, stick to your budget as much as you can, and alter your budget as you go is my biggest advice there. We're getting on down. Number 7, read the contract. That's literally like, that's in the step. Like, read the contract, people. Read the fine print. As a business owner, and this is one of the sentences I have in here, as a business owner, it is your responsibility to read everything you sign when doing contracts with influencers, partnerships, hiring, or accepting funding. I was always accustomed to not reading the fine print and learned the hard way that the slightest mistake of not understanding a contract can be costly in your business. If you have the resources, I suggest having a lawyer or legal advisor read over major documents you sign on behalf of your business. So the reason I put read the contract, I told you guys my business was growing, and it was getting to the point where it was just certain things that I needed help with. And one of those things were definitely funding and investments. So I accepted a few different funding options for my business early on. One was Shopify Capital, one was PayPal Capital, and then there was one more, Payability. Payability was the next one. So I honestly had great experiences with Shopify Capital and PayPal Capital, but Payability was the one that I had a big issue with. And it was due to me not reading the contract. So I accepted funding. Number 1, not paying attention to a lot of the terms of that funding. And if I would have read it and went about it the right way, I wouldn't have gotten myself into a sticky situation. And basically what happened was I accepted that funding, not knowing the specific time period that I had to pay the money back. That was one big thing. And also not knowing that when I didn't pay it back in the time period, they could shut down my Stripe payments. So for a while, my Stripe payments were down and I could not take any credit card, Apple Pay, Shop Pay payments on my website whatsoever. And it sucked. Like, it sucked because the only option on the website, the only other options was PayPal and Afterpay. And, you know, every customer doesn't have those things. So I basically lost out on so much money just from people not being able to run their information through Stripe. And they literally, like, I didn't even know that they could get into Shopify and control that. But if I would have read the fine print, I would have saw that. So that was one thing that kind of, like, really put a bad dent in my business for a little while until I was able to fully pay them back. And of course now I can accept Stripe. I did pay them back in full, but it was just like at that time that was like such a burden because I should have worked out the terms of my contract a lot better. So anytime when you are accepting any funding for your business, read every little thing. And if you think you're gonna miss something, like if it's too much to look over, get a lawyer and have them read everything, or get a second set of eyes, because that can really it can stop you from really making a costly mistake to your business. So next is legalities. So this is kind of closely related to read the contract legalities. My advice to most of my clients when starting a business is usually don't rush to getting any special licensing, trademarking, or costly legal documents unless they are required in order for you to operate. I always give this advice to new business owners. In the midst of actually starting and running a business, many people realize it's not for them or that they are not prepared. However, once you begin to run your business, you see it as something you want to do. Be sure to begin gathering all of your documentation. You'll want to have an EIN, incorporation documents, trademarking, and you'll want to begin gathering information for your taxes. I threw legalities in there because that is one of the questions I always get asked about the most is like, do I need an EIN? Do I need an LLC? Do I need this and do I need that? And it's a real sticky situation because it's like, I like to tell clients, if you have the funds and the means to get that stuff in the beginning, go ahead and get it, But a lot of people don't when they first start a business. And another thing, a big thing is a lot of us don't like to talk about is a lot of us start businesses and we don't keep running those businesses. I've even had my own business ventures that I was not passionate about and they did not keep running. So it was like, if I would have gotten an LLC, it would have been a waste of money. And so I tell clients all the time, wait until your business is actually running and then start getting your documents. But that does not mean like you should be keeping track of everything. Like keep track of all the money that you're making. Know exactly what type of business you want to register as. You can always have your EIN. You should get that in the very beginning because that's the least thing that you can get. And depending on what business you're in, a lot of vendors require it. And also depending on what business you're in, that's kind of what decides what documents and what paperwork you need up front. So just be mindful of that. And that I put that really as a mistake too, because that was something that came back to bite me. I did not set up my taxes correctly at all. Actually, my first year in business, I didn't even file taxes. And so the next year, I did not file my business taxes correctly either. And something that I want you guys to be mindful of is PayPal and Shopify do turn in your paperwork to the IRS. They submit your information to the IRS as far as how much you make or how much your business made and all of that stuff, it gets submitted. So you can either you could get audited and they could go through and see that you're basically not paying your taxes. And then also you can be reported from the IRS. Anytime you make anything over 20K, they're looking at you because it's like, what are you doing? And you got to pay taxes on that money. So that was one thing that I just was not doing correctly in the beginning. And basically what happened was in 2019, around the time when my business was shutting down, I had to pay back thousands of dollars to the IRS. And that was also right after the time I told you I was going through like a depression stage in early 2019. So I was already running my business janky. And then like right after that is when the whole IRS thing happened and I was out of literally thousands of dollars and I pretty much went broke. I literally pretty much went broke because it was like if I didn't pay back that money, I really couldn't make no money. And then Shopify, I also had a hold on my accounts and on my Shopify account. And it was bad. So I learned a lot right there after having to pay back all of the money I had to pay back. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of my situation, but like I said, it was pretty much just for me being negligent in taxes and my paperwork and running my business. So takeaway from this is don't play with the IRS, y'all. They will come and get you. And a lot of y'all been playing with the IRS this year. So just know what you're doing. Know what you're doing when it comes to your business, and do not play with the IRS when it comes to your business. Because that was something that I don't wish on anybody to happen. And it took me months. Like, it took me months. Not only did I have to pay them back, but it took me months to kind of recuperate and get my business back to where it needed to be. And all of that fell on me. Like, I didn't have no partner. I didn't have no, it was just nobody. It was nobody else there. It was nobody else responsible but me to handle that whole situation. So it was hell. Like, it sucked. It just sucks. And then it's like, to even go from a point where you're making XYZ a month and your business is doing well and growing and expanding, to where you're, not only are you barely making any money, but you owe money. So now you got to think about, at that time I was only running my business. I didn't have a job. So now that was my savings going down the hole. And I was supposed to move to LA that year. And the reason I couldn't move to LA was because I literally basically went broke. So that was just like a big, huge learning lesson for me. And yeah, don't play with the IRS. Don't play with those people, y'all. Is number 9, communication. Communication. Going back to how I pretty much like made my business a shit show. Again, back when I was going through that stage of me being like fake depressed or whatever, I'm not even going to say fake depressed, to me being depressed and not running my business the way I should, I also was not communicating with my customers. So I had emails, and then around COVID, in the beginning of when COVID hit, right before I closed my business for a few months, I was dealing with crazy stuff with my vendors. Like, I wasn't getting no inventory in, and it was hell, and it sucked. And so I was not properly, in my opinion, looking back, I was not properly communicating with my customers about what was going on. And I got a lot of nasty emails, a lot of nasty Instagram DMs when I was actually fully trying at my best, but it was just a lot of delays and stuff that I could not control. And when I think about it, it was so many better ways that I could have went about communicating that and communicating my issues or my company issues with my customers that I didn't. And the reason I didn't was, I'm not even going to say like it's because I didn't feel like it or anything. I didn't feel the need to. And a lot of business owners, we get so busy with other things that we try to sweep problems under the rug. And at the end of the day, your customer service is everything. You want to treat your customers the same way you want to be treated when you are ordering something or when you are handling business with someone. So you need to communicate and be transparent as you possibly can. Not to say as I should have been sending out emails, I'm depressed today and I can't ship y'all lashes. No, it's not that, but I should have been, number one, I shouldn't have been even letting anything from the outside world affect my business. But number two, I should have been contacting customers before they even contact me to let them know that there's a delay going on, and when or what the next steps could be, or when they will be able to get their products. Like, be on top of your emails, and like I said, when you have delays and stuff, you send out messages and emails before your customers even contact you, because that is appreciated, just you letting them know what's going on. And then a lot of the time, like when you don't communicate, or you take days and forever to respond back to emails and stuff, people do start to label your business as a scam or fraud, and you definitely don't want that on your reputation ever. So be smart about how you communicate, be transparent, and talk to your customers. Lastly, this is the last thing on the list, y'all. We finally made it through. Number 10 is keep grinding. This is something that y'all probably see all the time, right? Keep grinding, keep hustling, keep working. One of the biggest mistakes I made was getting comfortable. When you first start your business, You have a hunger and motivation that drives everything. Be sure you're doing things in your business that keep you happy so you do not lose your motivation and or become stagnant. Once you make a certain amount of money, or you get a certain amount of followers, or you get to a certain place, you tend to fall off in efforts or stop being as creative. And it's the biggest mistake you can make when striving to have a 6 to 8 figure business one day. You must keep working and keep being innovative within your business. There's a million other people trying to do what you are doing. Getting comfortable will only set you back. I had to reach out that whole thing because that one, honey, that was the one. That was the one. Yeah, that was one of the mistakes I made, was just I really started getting comfortable. Like when I got to a certain place where I was working with content creators, I was making a certain amount of money. Our Instagram page was looking good, followers were there, and all of that stuff. I just got comfortable. Like I wasn't as motivated anymore because I felt like I had this great business. When in actuality, I was nowhere near, and I still am nowhere near to where I want to be. But at that time, it felt like I was. Like I felt like I was big boss, like, you know, CEO. And I wasn't. I still had so much work to do. And because I got so comfortable, it was like I started noticing I'm stagnant. I'm not getting, I hit a glass ceiling. I think that's what they call it. And it was like I didn't know how to get past it once I finally realized that I was at a standstill. And my creative juices weren't flowing as much anymore. I wasn't creating new products the way I used to, new collections and stuff like that. My marketing was, I'm not going to say it was dry, but it was just like whatever, you know. So that was one of the biggest mistakes, is that like I feel like every day you should wake up, even if you got $1 million, you should be grinding to get another $1 million. Even if your business is getting noticed and getting attention from everywhere, that gives you all the more reason to put your foot on the gas even harder so you can get farther than that, you know? And that's the way that I like to think now. Like a lot of people think because now my business, I rebranded and it looks so much better, and our page is growing and I'm growing and my company is growing, that it's just like, you know, everything's perfect. But it's not, you know. In reality, it's not. I still have a long way to go. I still have a lot to learn. And I just have a really long way to go from now to get to where I want to be one day. I want Lash Candy to be a big company. I want it to be a household name. I want us to really change the beauty community and make a difference in the beauty community. And so many different things that I just have on the list that I haven't been able to cross off yet. So now I wake up every day, no matter how much money we make for the day or how many lashes I sell or whatever happens, I always think I could do better. I'm appreciative of how far I've came, for sure, but I just always think I can do better, and I think about how I can get better to reach my end goal. So I guess my advice there is to just never stop, never get comfortable. You have a long way to go. A lot of the people I look up to are like 10 years, 12 years into business. Like they're so far along, and they're still, I look and see them still grinding. Like they're still doing everything they can every day to make that business what it is. So just don't stop. Don't stop. Keep motivated, keep your energy clean, and all of that stuff, and never, 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 ever get too comfortable. And that, if I'm not mistaken, is number 10, and that wraps up my entire ebook. Thank you guys for watching and tuning in. I hope my mistakes taught you guys some stuff. I hope you don't make the same mistakes that I made on this journey. And I just want to say, like, one thing that I've really noticed is that nobody's perfect. You got to remember, when you're watching Instagram and you're seeing Twitter and you're seeing people post all of these packages and warehouses and all of this stuff, you're not seeing the L's. A lot of the things that I just talked about, if you didn't know me personally, you had no idea what was going on with me, like, or my business. Like, you didn't even know about it. Because on Instagram, you see the pretty things, you see the glamour. You don't really see everything that happens behind the scenes and all the L's and the failures that people take. So I just hope that my transparency, not to say everybody, like all the business owners and stuff that I know that are doing really well, they've been through stuff, not necessarily the same stuff that I've been through, but I'm not trying to say everybody experiences all of these problems, but people do experience issues in running their business. Nobody's perfect. None of this is overnight success. Like, none of it. It's a journey. This is, again, my 3rd year in business, and I'm still learning things. So I just hope that this taught you guys pretty much that nobody's perfect, for number one, and I also taught you guys what not to do. Because I did not have the luxury of having a mentor during any of this. So I was just growing and going and learning all at the same time. And I really wish sometimes that I did have a mentor that could have taught me, yeah, you need to do your taxes this way, or someone I could talk to about my problems that would actually understand and that has been on the same journey that I am on, that I could really connect with. I wish I had that, and I didn't have that. So this is just my transparency and my advice from me to you guys, and I hope it was helpful. The next video after this, I think it's gonna be a video you guys really, really wanna see. I think, well, okay, I'm not gonna give it away. Change my mind. I'm not gonna give it away, but the next video will be out shortly after this one. If you like this video, if you appreciated this video, please, please, please give it a thumbs up. Actually, right now, like if you're not subscribed, number one, go subscribe right now and go down, give us a thumbs up. And comment, also comment if you've been through any of the things that I talked about before, or if you're going through them right now, drop a comment below. Hit me up on Instagram, send me a DM, hit me up on Twitter, wherever you guys know me from. All of my social media handles will be in the description bar though. Feel free to reach out, and yeah, especially if you're going through some of the things, like I want to know what you guys are experiencing in your entrepreneur journeys too, and if it's anything that I've already been through, or you just never know. So yeah, drop some comments, and if you like this video and you want more videos like this one, let me know in the comments too below. And that's everything that I have for you guys today. I'll see you guys on the next video, and I think that's it. So bye. See